Lumber prices are jeopardizing the affordability of new construction homes for many buyers. So today we're going to talk through the real reason lumber prices are up, how this directly impacts home buyers, and at the end of the video, we're going to go through a real life addendum that builders are using to pass the lumber costs directly onto the buyers buying their home. I'm Nicole Nark, Arkansas real estate broker, and welcome back to my channel with videos to help you find your way home. So there are many obvious reasons that you may think lumber prices have gone up. For one, during COVID, many sawmills shut down temporarily when there were stay-at-home orders. In addition to this, there was a huge rise in DIY at-home projects, and new construction builders quickly tried to vamp up their production to combat some of the housing shortages. There is actually a deep-rooted reason that lumber prices are high and continue to rise that many news outlets are not sharing with you. It is softwood lumber that is used in many new construction homes. You see, Canada has long been the largest supplier of softwood lumber in the US. Canada has the ability to export and harvest lumber from public lands at extremely competitive prices. But back in 2017, the Trump administration saw this as a threat to domestic production. The Trump administration introduced countervailing duties of up to 20%, which was basically an extra tax on the Canadian soft lumber imports that would keep the pricing competitive with domestically produced lumber. Well, that was all fine and dandy until COVID hit. In December of 2020, to try and combat the rising prices of lumber, the administration decided to lower the tariff from over 20% down to 9%. But as we have experienced, that did not fully solve our problem because lumber costs continue to go up. So here's where we are right now. This week, members of Congress and the Biden administration are meeting with the U.S. Trade Representative to discuss the National Association of Home Builders' concerns about the lumber prices before the U.S. Trade Representative has another meeting this week with her Canadian counterpart. So it looks like the first thing that the National Association of Home Builders are really lobbying for is the elimination of that 9% tariff currently still imposed on Canadian lumber. Of course, if that gets dropped off or at least reduced, lumber prices should in theory go down because that cost would most likely no longer be passed on to the buyers of the wood. So what can you expect as a buyer in all of this? Well, if lumber prices do go down, that's only going to help you because in that case, most builders and new construction projects will not be passing that fee and that increase in the supply cost onto you as a buyer. But there's really no direct remedy in place right now where we could predict that that's going to happen soon. On average, new construction home prices are up by $36,000. And unfortunately, this tariff that was put into place to directly target Canadian exporters has in fact been hurting the American home buyers. Many home builders are to a point right now where they're having to buy the supplies for your home at an inflated cost. And they are passing this cost on to you as a buyer. They're also very much so encouraging that you agree to waive your appraisal because the house that you're buying may no longer appraise since the increase in lumber prices. So let's take a look at a concrete example of what you may be able to expect if you are under contract on a new construction home. Because I like to keep it real with you guys, I'm going to share the exact verbiage that I had a client receive from her home builder right now, asking her to pay more and anticipate that the price of her house will go up based off of the cost of the materials to build her house. So this is something that I want you guys to be wary of. So let's take a look at what this says. It says, due to this being a new construction and unstable material prices, seller, who in this case is the builder, is requesting that the buyer agrees to the following. Should the seller's cost per unit for lumber or material rise by more than 10% between the date of this contract and the date materials are ordered, buyer and seller shall agree that the price of this home may be altered. Should this occur, neither the buyer nor the seller shall be obligated to agree to the new price. If the new price is not agreed upon, buyer and seller shall agree to terminate any agreement between one another and hold each other harmless. Should these lumber or material costs exceed 10%, seller agrees to show the buyer the cost per unit dated the time of the contract versus the cost per unit at the later date. Regardless of what this is stated in the real estate contract, buyer understands that this agreement is not contingent upon appraisal. Despite the closing and possession dates listed in the contract, the buyer understands the final closing date may be altered should there be any issues with materials arriving on time. Wow. So many builders in many different states, not just Arkansas, are drafting up addendums like this to their normal contracts or to the normal real estate contracts in the area to protect themselves. Because between the time when you go under contract, potentially just on a lot, to when they have the foundation poured and they are ordering lumber, if the lumber prices increase by $20,000, they're wanting to pass that along to you as a cost rather than that cutting into their profits on the home build. From a business standpoint, I do understand it. I get it. But it is very important as a home buyer looking at new construction or currently under contract on a new construction to be aware of this. You will be, and your purchase price will be directly impacted by the pricing when your builder orders the materials. So what's my advice to you guys? Read your builder contracts extremely carefully. Builders can and do have the right to use their own contracts. They don't have to go through like your state's real estate contracts. So with that, there can be a lot of specific clauses and fine print in there that can allow them to do things like change the purchase price if the cost of supply goes up, or change the closing date and still kind of keep you locked into that contract. Additionally, it is more important now than ever to hire a buyer's agent that represents you and does not work for the builder. This is exceptionally important, especially if you are trying to buy a new construction home from one of these mass builders who's building a full community. Oftentimes in those situations, you may have interacted with the sales representative that sits in a model home. And it is very important that that agent specifically works for the builder and their best interests. It's not their job to represent you. So don't be afraid to hire your own buyer's agent. Have them walk you through the new construction process. And if you need help with that, I have connections all over the country with great agents who are used to and well-versed on these changes in new construction that would be happy to help you out. So if you need a connection, just send me a message. We'll get you taken care of. For more on the status of the market and where you can expect home prices to go, check out this video where I explain a little bit about why home prices continue to rise and when I think that they will start to decrease. I will see you in the next video.